show you how to do a fun face swap image just using an image that you found off the internet and Photoshop. So here I have a copyright-free image that I found online, and it's a picture of a group of women and a baby. So I thought it'd be fun to swap the baby's face with this woman's face here. However, you could really swap anybody's face. One thing you do want to look for when you're trying to find this image is you want to look for faces that are facing forward. So you don't want to see the side profile of somebody. And you also, it would be helpful if they didn't have glasses, because glasses are very difficult to swap onto somebody else's face if they don't also have glasses. So here we are. I've gone ahead and opened up my image. I'm going to take this image and I'm going to duplicate it twice. Now I can do that a couple different ways. So I can do a right click on the layer and duplicate the layer, or I can hit Command J twice and then I will have two of those layers. So if you right click, just do that twice as well so that you end up having 3 of these images total. Now we need to go in and we need to select each of the faces that we're going to swap. So to do that, I just use a regular lasso tool. If you prefer to use a polygonal lasso tool, you can do that. It's a little bit easier to just click and select with the polygonal, but if you feel comfortable using lasso, go ahead. And what I'm going to do is zoom in a little bit here, make sure I'm on the top layer, and I'm going to go ahead and select one of these faces. Now when I select this face, I'm trying to select pretty tightly. So I'm just trying to get the features basically. Once I have that, I'm going to go ahead and mask it, and I do that by clicking on this little icon down here that looks like the Japanese flag. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. Notice I was on this second layer down here, so now I'm going to click on the layer above that and go in with the lasso tool, and this time I'm going to select the baby's face. Go in here and select that baby's face, and then mask that as well. So it doesn't look like anything has happened because I have this background layer and I have these 2 layers masked. But if I take the visibility off of this background, you can see there are those faces. So now I need to swap those faces. So I'm going to click on this middle layer, go to my Move tool. I do not want to have Auto Select Layer checked, but I do want to see Show Transform Controls. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here, Command minus. Or you can go View and then zoom out, and that will work too. And I'm going to go ahead and just move this face over here. Now notice it kind of went behind the other layer. That's okay. We can always kind of remove this later. If we want to turn that other visibility, that other layer's visibility off, we can kind of see what's going on there right now though, and that's fine. If I click back on this layer, if I want to decrease or scale down the size of this face, I can do that, but I want to use the overall image and I want to hold my Shift key down and pull from the corner so that I don't lose proportion. So here I am resizing that, and that looks pretty good to me. I could maybe scale it down a little bit more. And of course you want this to go over the features of the other person too. So we're looking pretty good there. I'm going to hit return, turn the visibility back onto this other layer, click on that, and then go ahead and move that face up to the other person. Hold the Shift key down and scale that up a little bit, and then of course move it back to where I want it. Now you'll notice right now it's kind of looking a little weird because, well, and it's going to look weird in the end as well. But it's looking a little weird right now because we have, of course, all these features kind of going off of the side. And actually, I'm going to scale this baby's face down just a little bit because I think it's a little bit too big. There we go. So we need to go in, we need to paint these masks so that they look a little bit more natural. And the way we're going to do that is click in the mask portion of your layer. That's the black and white part here. Then go to your paintbrush. Make sure that under paintbrushes you are in a general brush and it's soft round. So it should be all the way over here at 0 on hardness. And you know, size, you're going to be able to see that here. If you want to size it up, you can use your bracket keys. So close bracket is larger, open bracket is smaller. And then because we are in the mask, white will show and black will hide. So you can see this has switched to black and white. If we hit our X key, we can change which color we're currently painting in. So right now we're painting in black, or which tone, I guess I should say. So you can kind of zoom in at this part of it and kind of start to paint this in here. I'm going to occasionally be switching back and forth between white and black because there's going to be some parts that I want to kind of paint in, and then clearly that's too hard of an edge there, so I'm going to want to paint that out. Now, you may have people that have drastically or even, minorly different skin tones, and I can show you how to kind of course correct for that too, if that is indeed what you're seeing there, and you need to kind of make their skin tone match the other skin tone a little bit better. It's looking eerily good there, kind of creepy. Yeah. So let's say that I wanted to make the skin tone match a little bit better. It's pretty good just doing a little bit of blending there, but if I wanted to try to change that skin tone, one thing I could do is add an adjustment layer here, and I could either do a color balance, which would kind of change the color a little bit if the skin tone was visibly different, or I could change the brightness and contrast. So either one of those would work, but no matter which one you choose, you'll have a sliding scale to determine what colors or tones that you can select. But if I were to go in and change this right now, if I were to take the brightness up, notice how it changes the brightness of everything, and I don't want that to happen. I just want to change the brightness of the layer directly below it. So to do that, I need to right-click on the adjustment layer, and I am going to create clipping mask. So select create clipping mask, and you're going to see this little arrow that pops up here, which means that any change that you do with this adjustment layer is only going to apply to the layer that's directly below that. So now I can go in and I can change the brightness of that specific layer and the contrast, and that will help me kind of blend that face in a little bit more. And then when you're happy with it, you can just collapse that in by clicking on those double arrows. So same thing with the color balance. If I wanted to do that color balance, I could right click or control click, create clipping mask. And then there are midtones, highlights, and shadows that you can change. If I wanted to make the skin tone a little bit more red, I could pull that a little bit, into the red. But notice that changes those midtones. If I wanted to do it in the highlights and the shadows, I would have to go in and do those individually too. And then again, just decrease that when you're done. All right, so now I'm going to go into the mask, so specifically clicking on that mask portion of this layer, and again with my paintbrush, zooming in here, black to hide and white to show. I'm going to start painting these different parts to kind of blend this in. And again, you might have to go back and forth, hit that X key a couple times to change what you're doing here. If the skin tones are pretty close, then you usually don't have to do much more than just this. And you end up with something that looks pretty creepy, but kind of fun too. You can still move these a little bit if you want to. Just kind of double check. You might have to repaint if you need to. But that's pretty much it. Now, the last thing that you can do, let's say you have these 4 people in this image. You could keep it like this if you wanted to. Maybe you decide to swap these 2 people's faces. But you could also crop it. You can use the crop tool for this, but what I like to use is the marquee tool because that allows you to kind of draw a couple different selections and then crop. So I'm going to just draw my selection in here and kind of eyeball that and think, am I happy with that? If not, I can go in and I can draw this again, and I can just try it until I have it where I want it. And then when I'm happy with it, I'm just going to go to Image and select Crop, and that's just going to crop the whole thing down. So now I'm just seeing those 2 faces. Again, this is an optional part of this, but if you have a picture with a lot of different people in there and you want to just kind of shrink that down to those 2 faces that you're swapping, then this is a good way to do it. So go ahead, experiment, have some fun with this face swap, and I'm excited to see what you create. All right.